Greetings, sailors. Philip Winter here, General Manager of Navigare Yachting. I'd like to welcome you back to the latest webinar in our series. We're very pleased to have you with us today to talk about one of the little mysteries of placing a yacht in a charter fleet. First, let me catch you up on some exciting things happening in the industry over the last couple of weeks. As you may have heard, the BVI has opened their borders as of December 1st. And right now, you have to fly into Tortola, Beef Island. Seaports aren't open yet, but when you get there, the BVI has considered sailboats one of the safest ways to get away and maintain social distancing. So you're allowed to sail to many locations. You will need to take a COVID test before you leave, one on arrival and one at day 4. So there are some COVID tests involved, but the sailing is great, and we look forward to seeing you down there. If you do make it down there, we'll greet you at our new charter base at Nanny Key. For those of you that know Nanny Key, know it is the prime location in the Virgin Islands. We're very, very happy to have been able to get into that location, as some other companies were reducing in size due to all of the coronavirus fallout. We were able to move our growing fleet into Nanny Key. Very excited about that. So the Bahamas have done away with their quarantine requirement. And so all you need to do is take a test before you go. You will need to take a test at day 5. No quarantine, great sailing. Our new location is located in Marsh Harbor. So we're happy. I was just down there. Actually getting in is very, very easy. So excited about that. So you guys are about to hear some breaking news. We're now sending a limited number of charters out from the U.S. Virgin Islands. So in partnership with CYOA, we have catamarans ranging in size from 42 feet to 52 feet out of St. Thomas. So very easy to get into as well, actually easier than any of the other bases. So availability is limited. If you have to sail now, make sure to call our charter sales team. So we've been doing these webinars ever since March, and it turns out that the webinars that have the most interest seem to be the ones on the whole financial side of placing a boat in a charter fleet. So if you're considering, or if you're already an owner, one of the things that you really need to consider and think about and ask about is what happens at the end of the charter period. We're going to be talking about that today. So we welcome any questions you have. As a matter of fact, I'd like all of you to find the chat button. You may have to scroll your mouse around, might have to click on 3 dots, but find the chat button. If you would, right now, just type in hello or anything you want, and make sure that you're able to, hey Chris, make sure you're able to send those questions in. So we're going to leave some time at the end to answer your questions. As we're talking about certain topics, if we see some pertinent questions, we'll make sure to answer them during that little section of the presentation. So. First, I'd like to talk just a moment about the common types of programs that owners are enjoying to increase their sailing time, generate revenue, and plan the best possible tax strategies, or all of the above. So many investors are looking for tax planning advantages to place their boat in a business model that allows for sharing of the charter revenue that pays the lion's share of the revenue to the owner. So with that program, you'd get lots of revenue, but you would be paying the expenses. Typically, that's the highest return. There is some risk associated with that, but it also works the best, of course, for the tax planning strategies. For a sailor not looking for significant tax advantages, We have a guaranteed revenue program. Most of the big charter companies have a guaranteed revenue program, and we will preset an amount that we will pay you for the next 7 years, or however long you want to stay in the program. And that allows lots of sailing time and a very good return. If you're looking at a mid-sized catamaran, around 9% of the cost of the boat per year for 7 years. So in essence, 60–65% of the boat can be paid off from charter revenue. We also have a SMART program that allows you to put a big portion down, about 50% on the catamarans, and it's fully paid off and you sail away at the end of the charter term. And a SMART holiday program where we put more than one owner on a boat, either 2 or 3 owners on a boat. We have one spot available on a Lagoon 42 right now. So we'd be glad to talk to you about which best fits your needs and desires. I'd like to introduce my colleague from our sales team, Joaquin Luna.
Hi, Philip. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, Joaquin is really knowledgeable in all of the financial side, has a great background on the financial side. So we're super happy to have him on our team. And let's get right into what I think most of you are tuned in for, and that is to find out a little bit more about exit strategies. So I know, in buying stock, it's important to know when to buy, but it's really important to know when to sell. So that the same is true with putting a boat in a charter fleet. So Joaquin, when you're working with your clients, what are the main exit strategies that you're hearing?
Well, Philip, there's a few different things you could do at the end, and kind of interesting. I don't think we can say that any one of them is more popular. It's really an individual decision, but there are several options. The easiest one is to sell the boat and exit the program. Not our favorite. We'd like people to stick around, do another tour with us. But that is one option. And generally, we're seeing the market values on used boats or yachts have been very strong. So that is often a very beneficial exit strategy. And also leads you to one of the next ones, which is to trade the boat in and move up or get back into a new boat. And we see people doing that for a couple of reasons. Sometimes they want to continue in the charter program and start, new. And sometimes they want to upgrade into a new boat that maybe they're going to sail away on or live on later. And that makes a lot of sense because we are seeing such strong values, and generally people have some equity at the end. A lot of people just choose to keep the boat and sail away. Depending on the plan and how aggressive you were on paying it off, you could, have a little lower mortgage, or in some cases with the SMART program, have no mortgage at the end. And then one other that probably is talked about less, but is still another viable option, is to place it into a second-tier charter program. Been talking to a lot of people recently that are considering pulling at the end of our charter program, taking the boat and moving it closer to home, and chartering it so that they have, more access to it, and they're not so concerned about the revenue at that point.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, I am all about the sailing away part. Been a big part of my life, long distance sailing, cruising. So that's the one that excites me the most. What are some of the considerations you see that owners need to look at to choose the best fit for them?
Well, Philip, it's a very a personal decision. I think it has to do a lot with people's, preferences and where they are in their life. We see a lot of people that time their their purchase into the program with their retirement, so that they have a boat that's coming out paid off when they retire. So then they, can live on it without a mortgage. But we need to consider some of the costs as well, because a lot of these yachts, are fairly large, complicated vessels, and the carrying costs can be expensive. So it's very important to see if you have the ability or the stomach to to carry all those costs on your own. Of course, in our program, we take care of that. So if you plan on keeping the boat, that's something that you need to look really carefully at. And then I think it's important to, as you get to the end of our program, to evaluate our program and determine if that's something that really worked for you, and decide if you want to continue it. And then, of course, for all of the people that have taken advantage of the tax situation, or the kind of boat as a business depreciation, they might need to consult with their CPA to see if they have any issues with depreciation recapture, which might also drive some of those decisions.
Okay, interesting. I'd like to take a moment. I believe we might have some of our current owners on the webinar, and I'd like to do a little shout out to them. Also, just over the years, I've noticed that some owners have gone in with a certain exit strategy, and then down the line things change, and the exit strategy will not always be what they had initially imagined. I know we get a lot of owners that are getting deeper in their term, and many are moving into new boats. So that takes some advanced timing, some time to think about in advance. So now, I'm not sure if I mentioned that my preference is to sail away on the boat. Let me address just a couple of things on that. And actually, I'm not sure there's a lot of explaining to do, although I could happily do presentations on prepping a boat to sail away, or how to plan a long-term cruise, best routes. I could just go on and on, whether I am very passionate about that. But for me, this is a great way to get into a boat, be able to use it for many years, pay down the mortgage, and very importantly, have lots of confidence in the boat when you're getting set to go out and do something that maybe you haven't done before, long distance cruising or long-term cruising. It's really important to be comfortable with the boat. So being able to sail on the boat for many years is a great way to get confidence up, and really the best thing you can do to be comfortable going out. So going back to our considerations for decision making, I think the owner who wants to get out and sail the world, or the Caribbean, or just have their boat locally, would need to be someone who greatly enjoys sailing, and I think that's pretty much everybody on this call. And also be in a position to make payments for the mortgage, if that's still applicable, or the berth and maintenance and other costs. And another consideration is how long the owner would want to keep the boat in the fleet. And I think you had touched on that just a moment ago. We have owners that know that in 3 years they're retiring. They're getting on their boat and they're going to sail away. And this is a great way to get to know the boat, not have any expenses, even have revenue for the first years, and just plan that date well in advance. So I want to mention again, if you have questions, we've got a couple questions coming in. Great to see that. But as we're going through the different strategies, if we see any questions that are relevant to that strategy, we'll address them right then and there. So the next strategy that you mentioned, Joaquin, pertains to putting a boat, or another strategy is putting a boat in a secondary charter fleet. Can you explain what a secondary charter fleet is and what are the advantages and disadvantages?
You bet. A secondary charter fleet is a fleet or charter company that might have a mixture of newer boats and might have some older boats. You know, generally we only take new boats because we're really built on driving a return to help people pay off the balance of, or the mortgage on the boat. The biggest advantage of a secondary charter fleet is they'll accept used boats in their fleet. They offer pretty good service, management contracts, and do have well-established and solid bookings and revenue. So, you know, the expectation is that you might be able to offset all or part of your costs. And with that, the disadvantage is usually that there's going to be a lower return than you would get with us with a brand new boat. And while the goal is always to stay positive on the P&L, it's not always the case with the lower charter prices and potentially higher maintenance costs. Secondary charter fleets don't usually offer any guaranteed return programs. And they're usually smaller local operations. It's very rare to find one that has multiple bases worldwide, so you wouldn't necessarily get the reciprocal sailing arrangements that we have. So let me make a couple of points on this that are very favorable with the Navigare programs. First, the term that Navigare will guarantee is 7 years. This is 2 years longer than any other company that we know of, and it makes a very large difference when you look at the total return on the boat. To be able to lock in these 2 additional years at a guaranteed rate, or even with the shared revenue plan, will make a significant difference over the typical 3 to 5 year programs. In order to offer a 7-year program, the boat needs to be maintained to the best possible standards. And Navigare Yachting has a fully digital charter management system. Every issue that's noted on the boat, either by a charter guest, the owner, or a member of the technical team, will be entered into the charter yacht management system. No slips of paper to fly away or have any issue forgotten about. It's all sitting there electronically on a web portal, and the issue will stay active until it's addressed. And the benefit to this is at the end of the charter term, the owner walks away with a full maintenance record. And if you do decide to sell the boat, that could be invaluable. And if you decide to sail away, it can even be more valuable.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for the good plug for Navigare Yachting. I know we want to be general, but I do appreciate the plug for Navigare. It sounds like the secondary charter fleet is a good option for somebody who wants to continue to sail significantly, not too worried about high income, and is able to find a secondary base that's in a location that's favorable for them to sail. So, Joaquin, how about just outright selling a boat?
Well, Philip, yes, this happens quite a lot. It's very common practice. We do have some owners who want to sell their boat at the end of the charter term. Things happen in life, and sometimes there's not enough time to enjoy getting out on the boat, or maybe another investment might come up that's better for the current situation. So, you know, one of the things I like to say about Navigare is we cover the whole life cycle. So from the purchase of the yacht all the way to selling it if you choose to have us do that.
Right. And so as an owner is considering selling their boat, what are some of the important points to consider?
Well, I would say that the most important factor in selling a used boat, or any used boat for that matter, is the condition of the boat when it's going to be sold. And while it's true that charter boats get more use than personal use boats, the good news is that generally charter boats are maintained far better. You know, boats don't do well when they sit anyway, so having activity on them and having them regularly maintained and professionally maintained will often lead to a charter boat having a better maintenance record and service record than a privately owned boat. The phase out is very important. At the end of the charter term, the boat will be pulled from the fleet and enter the phase out program. And owners should make sure to read the detailed phase out plan offered by the company. I know that the Navigare phase out plan goes into such minute detail as the size of a gel coat ding that will be repaired. Your boat should come out of the phase out in good condition with everything working. Most of the big charter fleets have sales teams that handle the boat sales for you at the end. They typically know how the boat and in many cases be able to line up buyers ahead of the handover, which will minimize the time that you have to carry a boat once it's out of charter. Alternatively, the boat can be listed with any broker. In the U.S., the typical broker commission is 10%. And this includes the commission for both the selling brokerage and the buyer's brokerage. And the quality of brokerage varies greatly. You know, much like choosing a real estate agent, I think it's very important that you're comfortable with your selling broker.
Okay. We do have a question here from Chris. Why don't you have a plan to take the boat, and how long will it take to sell the boat, and where does it sit till it's sold? Okay, so let me address that one. We do have a plan. It's the trade-in plan, or the ability to leave the boat at the location that it's at, or frankly, any of our bases, to have the boat listed for sale. Varies greatly. We have lots of catamarans in our fleet that seem to do extremely well. The monohulls tend to take a little bit longer, and so it's certainly something that you need to take into account. I would say the average listing time is on the order of 60 days. So that's there's a big demand right now for catamarans. As many of you know, new catamarans are at a minimum a year out, and in some cases, for some models, 2 or more years out. Okay, I love it. We've got questions coming in. So, and another question, if we sell the boat, do we charge the 10% commission? The immediate answer is yes, and the secondary answer is maybe. So there are lots of circumstances, and one of the great things about Navigare is we're very much a family-run business. The owners that founded the company work in it every single day. I talk to one of the owners almost every single day, less on Sundays, but sometimes we go kiteboarding on Sundays. So, but very, very flexible and able to put together programs. And for Jim, somebody like you, we could put together a very different program, and so we're happy to address that. But the standard answer, if you ask me for a flat out yes or no, I'd say yes. Joaquin, you had mentioned that another strategy for owners, not really an exit strategy, but rather a continuation strategy, and it involves trading in the existing boat for a new boat in the fleet. What are some of the advantages of that?
For trading it in on a new boat?
Yep.
Well, generally, I would say if you've gone through the Navigare's program for 7 years, you're probably going to end up with some significant equity in the boat. So that kind of gives you the ability to re-enter the market in a new boat with some protection from the price increases and the increased costs, which then allows you to generate higher revenue numbers again. And I would say, and generally, that's also probably a good way to avoid that 10% broker commission, is by doing a trade-in. But you'd probably have to approve that.
Yeah, that's absolutely. It's a great way to first of all, we've got some other questions, and maybe I'll take a shot at answering some of the questions that will have that. Anytime you own a boat, whoops, sorry about that, guys. Rule number 1: turn your ringer off. You do have costs. Certainly while it's in the charter fleet, in a guaranteed program, you don't have any costs. Smart program, no costs. Ultimate program, you do have costs, and you're compensated for those costs. When it goes to sale, you will have some cost to store the boat, maintain the boat. So I would say BVI, it's going to be for a 45-foot catamaran on the order of $1,000 a month. That's going to be a dockage cost with a couple cleanings a month. So our base also, if we've got people coming down, the base will happily clean the boat, do a really thorough cleaning of the boat to make sure it's show ready. Let's see, we had a couple of other questions. Duration, again, I think you touched on this, Joaquin. If we're going to be listing the boat, we want it listed months in advance. So it's very common for us to have a boat pre-sold when it comes out of the charter fleet. So it works out really well that way. When you have a date that you know you're going to sell, you can actually get the listing set up and buyers ready to go. We had a question from Scott. And do owners have to make an investment in improvements and upgrades for the sale? And what's the average listing duration? So for boats that we just list, take on and list, it's usually longer, 2-3 months sometimes. Some are faster. For boats that we know that we're going to have for sale, we get them listed. We work with partners around the country, and I get those boats out to the partners. We get a big outreach in addition to the standard yacht world kind of the relatively expensive, the MLSs, things like that. So we try to really maximize the amount of people that are putting eyes on the potential boats. So investments, typically not. The boats are fully equipped. If there are parts that need to be replaced, and of course different for the complete and guaranteed program. I'm sorry, for the complete, which is a guaranteed program, and the smart program. No, everything has to be brought up to full charter ready standards. Same with the ultimate. There may be some expenses in the ultimate program. But the boat should come out of the fleet charter ready. I think we're looking at a couple millimeter dings in the wood that have to be repaired. So we have, I think, the most detailed phase out plan of any company in the industry. So let's see, what other questions do we have? Approximately the current sale price percentage of purchase price for mid-40s Lagoon versus Fontaine Pajot for a 5-year-old cat. Joaquin, why don't you talk about the little study we did
You bet. So I think that's Bob's question. Um, to get you the real answer, we'd have to go do a little bit of research. But we just recently did pulled a couple 2 years worth of sales data on the Lagoon 46 slash Lagoon 450. And what we found is the actual sales price was, after 7 years, was only about 11% lower than the new price. Pretty astonishing. But that was actually, pulling actual sales data, I think from all of 2019 and half of 2020.
And as astounding as that seems, it's really due to the fact that the purchase price of a catamaran 7 years down the road is going to be significantly higher. So the boats are going up an average of well, I guess they're going up between 2.5% and 5% a year, depending on the model. So the boat's going to be 35% more, 30% more for a new boat. And the used boats are kind of, they're devaluing, but they're not, they're still following that upward trend of catamarans in general. So it was quite shocking. We use a reduction of value of 35%, 65% of the original value after 7 years. And that seems to be very, very much on target. We could use 30% and still be safe, but definitely want to have some wiggle room. We don't know what's going to be happening in the market in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. So we want to have somewhat reasonable numbers. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? At the end of the SMART program, when the boat is handed over to the owner, are there any tax consequences or reporting associated with the boat at the title handover? No. Typically not. We have bases in the British Virgin Islands, Bahamas, Mediterranean. So this may be a different answer if we ended up putting a boat in a U.S. base. We don't offer the SMART program for any U.S. bases. So that answer, it's tax-free and there's no reporting. So there's another question. Is there a minimum time commitment for the guaranteed revenue program or SMART program? The SMART program is locked in. That is set with all of the terms at the very beginning. What we do have with a SMART program is basically a bailout plan. So at the end of year 1, X dollars to bail out. Year 2, X minus, a smaller amount. So all the way through the term, you can get out by basically paying off the loan. So we take out a loan on the boat, and if you want to pay that off, you can have the boat early. But if you go through the duration of the term, we hand you the keys at the end of the term, and you sail away with your boat. The guaranteed revenue program, no. We do have a step down after 5 years, slightly lower guaranteed revenue than the first 5 years, but still significant. Even our year 6 and 7 guaranteed returns are higher than some companies' initial 5-year returns. So no, if you want the guaranteed revenue for 1 year and decide that you want to get out the next year, let us know a year in advance, or sometimes less. We're certainly open for discussions. We just want to book the boats like crazy as far out in advance and make sure there's revenue coming in, and so that's the reason that we do want to have as much advance notice as possible. And yes, you can sell the boat after 3 years, Chris. And let's see, what are the typical engine hours at the end of the charter? Great question, Danny. On average, at our Caribbean bases, we're doing about 600 hours per year. So that's kind of the average. We see some boats at 300 and 400 a year. Rarely does it go over 650, 700 hours per year. But that's kind of an average. Tom, there's no penalties for early exit. Oh, Joaquin, are you answering? I see Joaquin answering the questions here. So, but just so everybody knows, we don't have any penalties for early exit. And what is a typical pay down after 7 years in the program? Very good. In the SMART program, 100%. Depending on the term of the loan, you'll have about, I believe it's going to be 45% of the boat paid down, of the original loan amount paid down, or the original purchase price paid down. Once again, I noticed that we have gone way over our allotted 30 minutes. Any last questions? Oh, here we go. We got one just in the nick of time. How many engine hours can the engines last? So for a boat in a full-on fleet, we're probably talking about a rebuild, an in-frame rebuild at 10,000 hours. For charter fleets, I would give that somewhere between 5,000 and 7,500 engine hours before a rebuild. So, I just do want to say though that going back to the trade-ins, we do have, out of the 6 original owners that started off in the Navigare fleet 20 years ago, 3 of them are still in the fleet, and they've been trading in boats and taking that equity in the boats and just trading it. Now I think they can just roll boats that are fully paid for. So it's pretty awesome. So Navigare Yachting, we do sell boats into charter fleets. We do charters. We have some crazy charter auctions online. Actually, we're down to our last one, bit.ly/charter auction to get signed up to get that last charter auction and get you out sailing. So crazy COVID times. I thought back in March when we started doing these that I'd do a couple of webinars, and here we are bringing in lots of webinars. Check them all out on our webpage, on the scroll down on the events page. So on behalf of the Navigare team, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us today, and look forward to seeing you out sailing soon. Until the next webinar, fair winds and following seas.